I'd like to now move on to the United Nations General Assembly resolution about nuclear disarmament negotiations. The question relates to the resolution L41 titled Taking Forward Multilateral Nuclear Disarmament Negotiations, which I understand will be voted on between the 26th of October and the 2nd of November. And it currently has 39 sponsors, but not Australia. How does Australia intend to vote on this draft resolution, please?
Senator, I'll ask Mr. Richard Sadleir to answer that question.
Senator, hello. Richard Sadleir, First Assistant Secretary, International Security Division, DFAT. Senator, we will not be voting for that resolution. And if you just bear with me for a moment, I'll find my... So, Senator, consistent with the position that we took in respect of the OEWG report, we'll be voting no with respect to that resolution.
So if it's no and it doesn't get the support, does that mean that the UN General Assembly will then not proceed to convene 4 weeks of negotiations in New York in March, June and July next year that would be open to all states as well as international organisations and civil societies on, and I'm quoting from their documents, legally binding instrument to prohibit nuclear weapons leading towards their total elimination? Is that what will not happen if Australia, along with other countries, don't give this resolution support?
Yes, Senator. If the resolution is unsuccessful, that won't proceed. Senator, it might be helpful for me to outline Australia's position on the issue of a banned treaty. That position is consistent and clear. We do not support a banned treaty. A banned treaty that does not include the nuclear weapons states or states which possess nuclear weapons and is disconnected from the security environment would be counterproductive and not lead to reductions in nuclear arsenals. Such a treaty would risk damaging the NPT, including by creating parallel obligations and ambiguity and confusion, and it would deepen divisions between nuclear and non-nuclear weapon states. There would also be no effective verification measures to ensure compliance with such a treaty. Australia participated in the OEWG on nuclear disarmament in good faith and worked hard to negotiate a balanced and factual report that all members could support. At the final session of the OEWG in August, Australia spoke on behalf of 14 countries, explaining why we could not support a consensus report, which recommended negotiations on a treaty banning nuclear weapons next year. Australia initiated the vote on the final report, which 22 countries, including Australia, voted against, and 13 countries abstained.
30?
13?
13. So does that mean that Australia's opposition, well, I suppose, does Australia's opposition have anything to do with its policy of extended nuclear deterrence?
I've outlined a number of the issues that led us to oppose the banned treaty, but it is certainly true that one of our concerns relating to the banned treaty is that the geographical context is not right for such a treaty to progress at this time. And
considering I'm running out of time, can I just ask, so we have a policy of extended nuclear deterrence, that's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that's correct. So is our opposition, because it's obviously significant opposition at the United Nations, it could swing things in a totally different direction, is our opposition linked to that policy? The conclusion would appear to be yes.
Deterrence and arms control are not complementary, Senator. Disarmament does not, deterrence and arms control are complementary, Senator. Disarmament does not occur in a vacuum, and any steps must take into account the broader security environment. Our Defence White Paper highlights the importance of our alliance with the United States and the critical role played by US strategic nuclear forces in maintaining peace and stability and deterring nuclear threats to Australia.
So just going to the vote, you said 22 countries voted against, 13 abstained. Did Australia encourage any other countries to abstain or to, the 22 countries voted against, not yes. 22 against, 13 abstained. Did Australia discourage any countries from voting yes?
Senator, Australia participated in the negotiations in good faith. We worked hard throughout to try and produce outcomes, bearing in mind that the working group was looking at a broad range of issues. So we participated in good faith. Our decision to call the vote was taken on the basis of national interest, and at the time a number of other countries shared the concerns that I've expressed to you,
Right.
which is so of course as part of that process we engaged in dialogue with like-minded countries.
So the conclusion from your answer, although I acknowledge you haven't said it, so I'm not trying to verbal you, I'm just trying to get an answer, that the conclusion could be drawn that Australia encouraged other countries not to support this resolution. Is that a fair conclusion?
Yes, Senator, the
Thank
conclusion
you.
could be drawn.
Thank you. Has the US or any other nuclear-armed states urged Australia to vote no?
Australia has been lobbied by many states in terms of their positions in respect of the negotiations.
Which ones have lobbied, please?
I'd have to take that on notice.
Take it on notice, thank you. Do you expect the resolution will be defeated or adopted? What advice have you got at the moment, please?
We'll have to wait for the vote, Senator. I can't speculate at this stage.
But I imagine that people you work with ask you your advice on that.
Senator Rhiannon, I don't.
It's an opinion, I think.
It's fair to ask the officer his private opinion.
Okay,
And he may have a private opinion, but
Thank
if
you,
he
Minister.
does, that would only be his private opinion.
Thank you, Minister. Assuming it is adopted, will Australia participate in the negotiations next year on the Prohibition Treaty? What do we do afterwards if it's adopted?
Senator, no decision has been taken on that issue.
Thank you. Wouldn't Australia want to have a seat at the table and try to help shape the treaty rather than stay
Well,
outside?
Senator Rhiannon, you're really asking the officer to offer a private view, which he may or may not have, but even if he did, it would only be his own private view.
Thank you, Minister. Apart from a treaty to prohibit and provide for the elimination of nuclear weapons, are there any measures to stigmatise, prohibit and eliminate nuclear weapons which the government realistically expects to be implemented within the next 2 years?
Senator, the approach the Australian government takes is that there are no quick fixes to securing a world free of nuclear weapons. Our focus has been on coming up with practical building blocks to try and carry forward the ultimate goal of a world free of nuclear weapons. And there are actually quite a number of activities going on which are designed to try and progress nuclear disarmament, bearing in mind that there has been measurable progress. So, for example, if you look at the way Article 6 of the NPT has been progressed, nuclear weapon states have reduced their nuclear arsenals by 80% since the height of the Cold War, and from approximately 70,300 weapons in 1986 to an estimated 15,350 in early 2016. That's according to the Federation of American Scientists.
Can I bring you, because of time, can I bring you back to the question? It was, apart from this treaty, are there any other measures that would prohibit or eliminate nuclear weapons within the next 2 years? I understand the answer is no, and that's what I'm just wanted to clarify. So we've got something on the books, something on the table at the moment, about to be voted on. Apart from that, is there anything else in terms of addressing
Senator, we
nuclear
have
weapons?
the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is the cornerstone of nuclear disarmament, and it is the actual treaty which provides a regime for the elimination of nuclear weapons, and it's already on the books.
Yes, but to actually advance it. There's nothing else that will actually advance that process that's on the books, on the table at the moment.
There's work, Senator, being done on things like verification, development of verification mechanisms and so forth, as outlined in our progressive approach, which was tabled in the open-ended working group. So, there's work going ahead in the IPNDV, for example, on trying to, which is very good work, on trying to do the very difficult job of, creating an environment where you can actually verify nuclear disarmament. So that's an example of a positive exercise that's going on. Obviously, continuing work goes on in terms of CTBT entry into force and in terms of maintaining the moratoria on nuclear weapons testing and so forth. So there's a lot going on.
I might be able to squeeze in one more question, so thank you for that. New Zealand has an active military alliance with the United States, but does not claim protection from US nuclear weapons, and the US has agreed to respect New Zealand's position. Wouldn't it be feasible for Australia to similarly negotiate military cooperation with the US, which excludes nuclear weapons?
Well, that's a policy question, Senator.
I think on that note,
that is not the view of the Australian government. It hasn't been the view of any Australian government of either side of politics.
Well, there is.
Okay.
For as long as the ANZUS Treaty has been in operation.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator.